Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and speak with me. And I see your book there in the background, which is awesome.
Yes, it is. I'm proud of it, along with my other children.
Yeah. I love it. I love the creative children, like the books, the thoughts, the ideas. Those are
Yeah.
big too. Like I'm learning a lot from one of my friends. She teaches on womb wisdom.
Oh,
So
yeah.
she's talking a lot about how, like, as women, different times in our cycle, how we respond to work or ideas and
Mhm.
creation, and literally how things like a book or things we create are like a baby because it's going along with our womb and menstruation cycle. So it's
Absolutely.
really interesting. So
Yeah.
I totally am
It's funny that I started that way too, eh? And I didn't even know that. So
like, I love it.
yeah. We're already
Yes.
in sync.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on and speak with me. I know there's so many others that are looking forward to listening to this podcast or watching the video when it goes live. And I really just wanted to reach out to you because, like you said, like we both have the same goals and we both are finding the same needs and how to fill those needs and meeting different people who are always expressing mainly the same situations or the same stories we hear over and over. So if you could just go back to maybe like years go back when you first started noticing your own experiences, but also hearing from others,
Mhm.
maybe just touching on what were some of your experiences that led you to want to make this change and how you envision this helping others.
So now let me clarify, which change are you talking about? Because my life is all about changes. So I don't
Yeah,
know which
I
one to
guess like
focus on first.
yeah, I guess the first change is like just noticing that my life cannot go on this way.
Mhm,
Just
mhm.
and that can cover like 10 different things, but just noticing like who I am, this isn't working, my relationship with my partner, this isn't working, like just really getting to that like almost the breakdown before you can break through.
Yeah, yeah. And pretty much that's how it went for me, right? Okay, so where do I start? Oh my God, I have so much to say that I don't
Yeah,
even know where
I'm
to
always
start.
the same. I'm like, I have so much to say. I love it.
Um, so I guess what I'm gonna start from the moment where I realized that my partner, my husband John, has he was different, right?
Mhm.
To say it, you know. Uh, Sorry, phone. Just to say it lovingly, right?
Yes.
So we met under very different circumstances in a very crazy country called South Korea. He was just released from the military. I just graduated from the university, and um, he was there already. I showed up. We never met each other, and then all of a sudden we met and love at first sight. We were unstoppable, we were unbreakable, we were just together all the time. And it was one of those literally cliche happy stories, right? Where, like I said, our eyes met and that was it, right? Um, and and then I started realizing that, oh, maybe he's not that perfect. He is reacting to certain things in a certain way, and that's necessarily the way I would I would think it's appropriate or whatever. But again, like I said, the environment was so forgiving. We were having a blast. We were traveling the world. We were, partying a lot and living the life and riding motorcycles and being adventurous and stuff like that. Nobody thinks or is concentrating on little things like maybe PTSD. Like that doesn't belong to that picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we just carried on with our lives, and our relationship was very, up and down, up and down, up and down, but we're both very passionate people. So when it was good, it was great, but it was when it was bad, it was pretty bad. But again, we're very passionate, so we put a lot of passion into any emotion. And then
Mm-hmm.
we decided to get married. We got married, and then we came back to Canada, and we started to have a family, and that's where the real life started, right?
Mm-hmm.
our first child was born, and you know, we both have jobs, and we have to had commitments and schedules and stuff like that. And that was very apparent that John was struggling, right? And you know, we've had tons of talks and stuff like that. And at one time, I do have a degree in psychology, and it looked to me like a lot like PTSD, right? So I brought it up to him, and thankfully he was open to seeing a specialist, which he did. And yes, the diagnosis came for PTSD. And at that point, it was kind of bittersweet, because now we knew he had PTSD, which was a completely different monster altogether. But then at the same time, we knew that what we were dealing with, right? So it was kind of bittersweet. And nevertheless, you know, like with any, you know, mental health conditions, or you know, any imperfections, so to speak, by or none of us are perfect, right? But
Yes.
some you know, more than well, I'm just gonna leave that. I'm just gonna dig myself into a hole. Politically correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know, so we knew what we were dealing with. However, you know, life was still very difficult, especially being new parents, literally in a new country. I was, you know, familiar with my surroundings, because my last years before I left for Korea, I spent in Toronto with my family. But John was from down east, so he didn't have the family support. He didn't have any friends, so it was all about my family and my friends and my surroundings, right? So obviously it was a lot harder for him, and you know, new environment and new job, and a new family and new wife and everything, right? So it was a lot to handle. However, you know, he's a survivor. He's one of the strongest people I've ever met, and he always wanted to make it work. And like I said, it's been really tough sometimes for both of us, because you know, he was struggling and with the triggers and stuff, and at that point we both didn't understand what it is that we were facing. And then, make long story short, you know, we went through several breakups and getting back together, and very short ones though. And then we decided to have another child, and you know, things were under control sometimes and completely out of control at other times, right?
Good way of putting it.
Yeah, yeah. So it came to the point where I can't even remember the date, but it came to the point where it was too much for both of us to handle. Our youngest son was 4 years old. The older one was 9. And it was too much for me to handle. It was too much for him to handle. It was too much for the kids to handle. Although John is not violent at all, he flees when he's triggered, right? So I would always be walking on eggshells, and then I saw that the kids would be doing the same thing, because he's a fabulous dad, yet when he was triggered, he would become a shell of a person, like completely and physically removed himself, and you know, wouldn't be around for a long period of time, right? So I would worry, and the kids would worry, and all that. And then, you know, and then when he would come back, he would obviously be apologizing, and you know, and he got to the point where he was sick and tired of constantly apologizing and me not trusting him, and vicious cycle, right? So we decided to end the marriage, right? And that at that point, you know, I came to the realization that life cannot continue like this, right? It's not healthy for me. I was so in it that I didn't even see anything else. I was so broken that I didn't even realize how broken I was until I got out of it. You know, I was literally going step by step every day, and I had, you know, I knew I couldn't make any long-term plans, because you know, most of the time they wouldn't work out. I couldn't see my future, and definitely, you know, it was causing my physical and mental health, and seeing my kids following our footsteps, you know, it was a huge awakening for me. And this is pretty much what when we decided that this is not going to work, and we broke up. So going back to very long-winded answer, but this is the realization when I have the biggest realization that things are not going to work out, and you know, the way we're going, it's not going to work out. And at that point, we were too sick or too dysfunctional on both ends, that even as much as we both loved each other and tried, there was too much damage. There was too much that happened, and we couldn't continue for everybody's sake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know, do you want me to continue with my story?
Yes. Yeah. Go right ahead.
So after we broke up, you know, I was worried sick about John. You know, I didn't know how he's gonna handle it. You know, you hear so much about suicides, and you know, about people slipping into addictions, and you know, losing everything, losing themselves, and so on and so forth. So I was extremely worried about him. But you know, I'm proud to say that, you know, this is, like I said at the beginning, he's one of the strongest people that I know, and he proved that at that point where he really, you know, bet on him. He really put tons of work in his well-being, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
really staying on track with his treatment, and really figuring out what works and what doesn't. And you know, and so he literally, you know, turned himself around, and on his own healed, and obviously not on his own, with a team of experts, and a lot of friends and family around him. But you know, he did it, and I did the same. I rediscovered myself. I came up with the book idea, you know, just really focused on me and self-care, and being the best person that I can be for me, and for our kids. And again, like I said, when we're breaking up, it wasn't for the lack of love. We loved each other more than ever. You know, because of we loved each other so much, we couldn't be with each other because we were hurting each other so much. However, that love came in very handy, if I can say that, when we were broken up, because although we were broken up, we were very supportive of one another. You know, we put the kids at the forefront. You know, although it was hard to be apart, it was hard to you know, go through the separation, and headed for the divorce. And you know, so, but we never lost ourselves in that feeling of why did you do this to me? For me, you know, we looked at the kids and said, okay, so how do we make it work so we can still be co-parents, and we can still, you know, turn these things around for these two little guys, right? Because they obviously, you know, it impacted them greatly at all, as well. And you know, 2.5 years later, we decided to get back together as two different people. Again, everybody is like, you did what? You know, there's a reason why an ex is an ex, you know. And I said, absolutely.
Yes.
And you know, it didn't happen overnight. It took a
No,
lot.
that took years.
It looked a lot of convincing, a lot of therapy, a lot of therapists getting involved, and giving the green light, and everything. And of course, a lot of accountability on both of our parts. But I'm so pleased to say that we are back together. Last year, we renewed our vows in Paris, and we've been going strong, and you know, it's been wonderful. I mean, nevertheless, very hard at times, because all those issues are there.
Yes.
However, we have tools, and we decided that we're both two different people. We have a new marriage, we have a new family, and we work on it every day, right? So
I think that's really hard for a lot of people who knew their spouse kind of like one way, and now they're like another way, and you're like, how am I supposed to get to know this person? Is this okay? Is this what I want? It really is like a whole different journey of like figuring out who you are, who this new person is, and how that works as like a relationship together. I think that's one of the hardest things. For me, my partner, when I met him, I already knew he had PTSD. I knew he was a veteran. I knew all that stuff. So I got to know him for who he is now. Whereas people like his parents and stuff knew him totally different. And now he's like this person. So really just like accepting them and meeting them where they're at. And like you said, finding those tools so that when those things do happen, you do know how to keep going through. Because for me, it was so new for me. Like I knew what PTSD was, but I had never like been living in a relationship with someone that I was in love with. And then you start taking the things personally. You think something's wrong with you. You think something, the end is near, the world's ending, like, because everything's so intense and like irrational. And like you said, the reactions aren't the way you would react. So you can't really comprehend exactly what they're going through. What is some advice that you would give for people who maybe feel some like resentment towards the fact that they're like, it's because of you, we're here now, or it's because of you, we lost money, or it's because of you, we had to move, or because of you, we had to break up or change? What's something that you would suggest to those people that feel that resentment?
Well, first of all, I would suggest them reading my book.
Yes, I also
all in there.
That.
But quickly, like there's so many things, but first is looking at the situation and seeing, is it okay for me to be there? First, safety first, right? Like, I mean, is it safe for me? And if there's kids involved or family members, is it safe, right? If it is, can I deal with this, right? If the answer is yes, then how can I deal with that, right? And then what I was doing, and this is maybe I'm going to bring the time when John and I were breaking up, and I was dealing and feeling all those emotions, and you know, I was so brokenhearted, and I was so angry with him, right? And obviously, you know, the victim would come out in me, right?
Yes, good word.
And just recognizing that, you know, again, like I said at the beginning, I think we weren't recording yet, but I said it's all about perception, right? I mean, we can look at any situation and we can see the negatives and we can see the positives. There's always something positive in that situation, right? So I literally forced myself to look at the positives in littlest things, because, you know, when we first broke up, oh my gosh, I was in such a rough shape mentally, physically. You know, here I was, a single mom of 2 little kids that I needed to provide for financially, physically, mentally, right? And I was not in shape to do that. You know, and obviously the love of my life was not what I thought, wasn't the person that I thought he was. Now I was worried about him as well, because I still loved him. And I was in a battle between, you know, with my heart with my head, right? So again, looking for those positives in every minute. Like I literally have an exercise in my book where every time I would see a color red, I would stop and say, okay, what positives can I think about right now? Like, am I safe? Am I breathing? Are my kids safe? Am I fed? Are my kids fed? Do we have roof over my head? It really got down to like the primitive, you know, basics for me.
Yeah, the basics.
Right. And then slowly but surely, you know, practicing exercises like that, I would be like, okay, well, maybe it's not so bad. Hey, I actually had 5 minutes where I didn't cry. Hey, I actually lasted half a day where I didn't have a bad thought about John. And, you know, hey, I just, you know, didn't feel like a victim today. And slowly but surely I would get myself out of it. So that was one. The second thing, and when I work with clients, or when I give advice, or I remember that about myself, is that whenever I would have bad days, it's okay. You know, I was forgiving to myself. I learned how to love myself first, and I loved myself through the bad days, right? If I needed to grieve, as I believe this is a natural process when we lose someone, is it, you know, they don't have to leave this earth, but you know, I was grieving John, I was grieving my marriage, I was grieving myself, the way I once was, and I was allowing myself to do that. So I wasn't too hard on myself. However, I knew that there is an expiry date on that grief. So if I'm allowing myself to grieve today, that's fine. I'm going full force. And, you know, if I have to eat a bucket of ice cream and cry all day, let it be. But tomorrow,
Yes.
that's it, you know, and tomorrow it's a new day and I'm starting fresh, right? So again, allowing yourself to do that, not being too hard on yourself, right? And then really looking at, you know, the self-care aspect, right?
That's what I was going to say next, because I really like that part in your book. And I think that's so major.
So
And people
important.
do not make enough time for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and we have busy lives, you know, with someone who's suffering or without, right? And we really have to be, you know, very persistent. You know, this
Yeah.
is our time. And I would always tell myself this: I cannot be good to anybody if I'm broken myself. And how am I not going to be broken is because of the self-care, right? So
Yeah.
so I guess these are the smallest aspects. Well, not the smallest, the big aspects, right? But and then, you know, one very huge thing that I want to mention is when I had a lot of anger towards John, or I was in that victim mentality, understanding that this is a victimhood and how do I get out of it as quickly as I can because it's not serving me. And the second thing, um, changing the negative feelings towards compassion, right? And always thinking, okay, so I know I wouldn't react this way, but I don't know what I would be like if I was in his shoes, right?
Yes.
So again, talking myself through that and really focusing, and instead of, you know, when he was reacting in a certain way and I didn't appreciate it, you know, in my head I would call him every book under the sun, but at the same time I would be like, you know what, I feel so bad for you because you have to be going through hell if you're acting this way towards me right
Yes.
now. I can only imagine what's going through your head and how your heart is, you know, you're at conflict. So I would, instead of the anger, I'll be like, I feel so sorry for you, man. And
Yes.
that would help me, right? Like I would really, I believe in karma, right? And I believe that oral actions are gonna create, you know, other actions, and there's always consequence to every action and every thought. And I was always, you know, thinking from that perspective, and it was helping me that, you know, if I send him love, even if he's acting in a certain way, even if I don't send him anything, but
Yeah.
not anger or you know, any type of negative feelings, it's better for me. Right? So
Yes.
look at it from, because sometimes it's hard. Like, I mean, they piss you off so much, and you know, you were like,
They
I
do.
don't have anything else to give, and what the heck do you want from me, right?
Yes.
But so it's hard, but you know, so I would do all kinds of tricks just to kind of trick my brain just to kind of come out better on the other end. So I
Yes.
think in a really short version, these would be the main things that I would recommend for others.
I totally agree. What does your self-care look like now?
Oh my gosh, I hope you never asked. Because I literally was thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to go to gym yesterday and I got too busy, you know. So well, but I am proud to say that I found time to go to do my hair today, right? So
Yeah, that counts. That's so fair.
I feel so much better. My life is super busy because of work and the book and you know, and you know, with the kids and family and stuff like that. So it's really hard to find the time. But you know, like, I mean, I literally have to pencil it in, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
same
mean,
with me.
yeah, it's non-negotiable, right? It's,
Yeah.
you know, even if I have all these brainless shows that I watch sometimes, right? And listen
Yes.
to my meditation or whatever it is. But you know, even if I do an hour before bed, you know, I'm happy, right? Or even if I'm driving in the car and I listen to a great song and I start dancing, and you know, like, I mean, I take those moments and say thank you. You know, I had my self-care for, you know, for this moment, right? So it doesn't have to be long and pre-planned, and I don't have to go to a mountain and meditate for 7 days, not at all. I would never fit that
Yes. No, I'm like, I already feel like I'd be like, oh, I wasted so much time. I could have made 10 more courses, like, and done so
Right.
many other things. It helped 20 people. Like, yeah,
That's
I'm the
right.
same. Like, I'm all for self-care, but I'm also like realistic about it.
Exactly. And I think this is why people fall off the wagon, so to speak, because we put so much pressure on ourselves. And when we lack self-care is when we're busy, when there is the pressure
Yep.
already on us, right? So don't do it to yourself. And like sometimes when I work with my clients, they're like, you gotta be kidding me that I'm gonna put 15 minutes into my day. And I said, 15 minutes, okay, do 5, and
Yeah.
start with 6, and then tomorrow do 7. But don't, like, say that, I have to go to the gym, I have to drive to the gym, I have to stay at that class for, because that's overwhelming within itself.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very lax about self-care.
Me too.
The way to go about it. But I think it's super important. That's why I have 2 chapters on self-care in my book, not just one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
A question I know that was asked in the support group there that I've organized, someone had asked, like, what do you do when you feel like your partner isn't doing enough of the work, but their partner feels like, yes, I am doing enough? She's like, how do I go about approaching him without making him feel guilty or more upset or pressuring him, but they just aren't, seeing eye to eye? Like, how would you talk to someone about that to encourage them to go about it kind of more in a, I don't know, I want to say like a healthy way, but not in like an accusation way?
Yeah. So the one thing that I need to say, and some people are not like that, but I believe that everybody has a free will, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
he wants to do something, he will do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that he's doing something is already a good thing, right?
Yes.
But of course there is things that with John and I, we have a lot of communication about different things. And the one thing that I've learned the hard way, and I think we all have, is don't do it at the wrong time.
Yeah,
There has
I
to, and
agree.
and I am not a patient person in nature, right? So I mean,
Yes,
I want to
same.
have it,
I
done
just want to
right
talk
now.
it and be done with it. Like,
That's right. That's right. But he isn't, and I have to respect that, right?
yes.
So I mean, we are at the point where we use code words, and if
Okay.
I approach him about it and it's not the right time, although it looks to me like it might be the right time, he just uses the code word, or he gives me a sign that I already know, because this is one of the tools that we're using. And then
Mm-hmm.
and at that point, it doesn't matter if how upset I am, or how much I want something from him, or how much something is bothering me, or how much I think he's not doing what he's supposed to and stuff. I just drop it, right? And then we have an understanding that when he's ready, he's going to approach me, right? and
Okay, I
then
like
and then
that.
yeah, and then again, when we communicate, and obviously in the healthy way, because of course, like, I mean, we lose it on each other from time to
Oh,
time,
yeah.
of course, right? But in the healthy communication, we both understand that we have to listen to both sides, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and and this is big for me, because sometimes I have an idea that maybe he's not doing enough of this, but then when I listen to him, I'm like, no, he actually, I was in the wrong, right? So it's just that
Yes.
realization that maybe from where it looks like for us, from where we are standing, it's not the same. Most likely it's not the same from his perspective, right? So having that respect and understanding, and of course it has to do with trust, right? That person is not just kind of pushing the boundaries, right? And they want the same outcome, and they want to be healthy, they want to be in that marriage. Because when we start talking about you know somebody's fighting for their marriage, and the other person is like, no, I'm not doing it, like, I mean, there's only so much you can do in that
Yes.
situation, right? So, but that's a completely different subject altogether.
Yeah, I really feel like your journey, for example, or just like anyone who's gone through something like this, it's like the fastest way to realize like what codependency is, but
Oh yeah.
also, yeah, but to also like really be firm in your own journey and like really trying to figure out how are you separate, but how are you like in it together?
Mhm.
Like it's so strange because no one like talks about that or teaches you that. It's just like you're a person and then you're in a relationship and then you're supposed to do these things and then your life ends. Like you're supposed to do these steps and that's it. But it's not like that at all. It's like
Mhm.
how are you all the time? And then how do you also respect this other being who also just needs to be them? It's very
And we're
different.
so different. We're
Yes.
so different, you know? It's like, oh my God, whoever ever said that people should get married or be together was crazy. But then
Yeah,
again, at the same time, it's the most amazing thing, right? So it's that
it is.
balance, right?
It is. I like made a post on my Facebook today that I was like, the soul journey is the hardest journey, but it's also the best journey. Like, cause you have like the worst dark night of the soul moments, but then you have like this oneness and freedom and love on the other side. So it's like the most intense journey ever. And like this whole PTSD and partner and family journey is like a fast track to get you through the dark night of the soul, get rid of your codependency, like look at all of your issues and everything. And then you can either come out on the other side being more independent, but also more connected, or, you know, you go your separate ways and you figure that out too.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
the one thing that I want to say on this is, and I,
Yep.
again, I've learned the hard way about boundaries, right? Um,
Yes. Good one.
yeah, it was, it was so hard because when we're in it, we obviously want to make excuses for that person because we love them, right? And then again, intentionally or not intentionally, they're breaking them or pushing them and such, right? And once I can't remember if I was listening to a podcast or reading a book, and someone said that, well, how are you expect other people to respect your boundaries when you yourself keep breaking them over and over again? I was like, oh
Ooh.
my God, that was for me. Damn, that was
Yes.
good. And then it really stuck with me, right? So that's one thing why our marriage works right now is because we both have boundaries, right? And we both
Mhm.
know that we can't cross them. And if one of us do, it's a deal breaker, right?
Mhm.
And because again, we want the same outcome, we want to be together. We both respect that, right? So I thought that was really important to say because boundaries
Very
literally
important.
saved me and saving me now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I also loved in your book how you touched on how like I also have the same mentality that it's not just one thing that works.
Mm.
It's like the therapy and the communication and the energy work and the self-care and like it's a little bit of all the things. I
Mhm.
also love therapy and I feel like people are like ashamed to talk about that they go to therapy and I'm like I think it's wonderful to
Yeah.
have someone listen to you
Right.
and
Yeah.
then you have all these aha moments. Like it's really
Mhm. I
freeing.
know.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's really like a combination of things. So I really liked how you touched on that too.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I think everybody has to find whatever works for them, right? Because what works for
Yes.
me, it's not necessarily going to work for you. Or maybe a combination of different things will work
Hmm.
wonders, right? I think again, it's going back to who am I, what it is that I want, what kind of relationship do I want to have with myself first, then with my partner, right? And
Yeah.
it all stems from that, right? And builds upon.
I liked how you mentioned that like money course that you went through in the book.
Yeah.
I actually looked it up. I'm like, because I'm actually starting to work on my own money beliefs
Mm.
and getting more independent on that. And
Yeah.
I just did it was like a quiz with a she's like a financial advisor, but she also does like the mindset and the energy work when your beliefs of money. So she combines both. And you do like this quiz to find out your archetype. And mine was the fool.
Oh.
And I was like, no, but yes, that that is me.
Well, but see, like that's what endearing about you is that you laugh about it, right? And you're like, okay, now I know what I'm dealing with. Now I can change it if I
Yeah,
want to,
so I
right?
gotta
So,
meet that where it's at.
yeah.
And moving on. And so I really liked how you mentioned that too. And then like on the other side, it's like, yeah, I'm actually like was abundant and like started my own business and made my own money. And I'm like, yes, like that's the direction I'm also heading in. Like I want to know my finances. I don't want it to just be like, you know, the male or just one person in the relationship knows more about it and makes more and the other one does this, like it's more equal. And so that's like a whole other wonderful journey too, that like in I don't want to say unfortunate instances bring it on, but it's something that again you have to meet it where it's at. So I really liked that you
Absolutely.
mentioned that. The course was great
Oh
too.
my God. And it works, you know,
I
like
love
I think
that. I
I
have to buy
mentioned
it
like
now.
two or three in there. I can't remember if I did or not, but I've done quite a few, and you know, I've done so much work, and this was, again, it was so heartbreaking, but at the same time was so liberating because I knew
Yes.
I needed a change. And I'm a very inquisitive person, and I knew that obviously what I was doing with what I know, it wasn't working. So I needed
Yep.
to educate myself, and I love learning, right? I feel like when we stop learning, we might as well just put ourselves and die, right? So, but at that point, in those critical moments, I was soaking everything up, right? And finances were a huge thing, right? For me, where you know we were always struggling, and I don't come from money, and we don't get that education anywhere, right?
Yes.
So I mean, here I am with two small kids and all these bills to pay, and I have my own business, but if I don't go out there, I don't make money, right? So that was a huge thing because I was like, how am I going to make it work? And one of them was, well, you need to freaking have the money to make it work, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, courses and reading and this and that, and you know, and I'm like, I don't have anything else. I have to surrender, right? And I did surrender, and they really, really, really opened myself up to all these different knowledges and experiments and whatever you want to call it. And it worked. Like literally, if somebody would tell me, oh, this is going to be my life 3 years ago, or even, you know, even, well, 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like,
Yeah.
you gotta be out of your mind. Like there's no way, you know? And especially
Yes.
like within a year, things changed so drastically that the conscious, because now I got used to the lifestyle that we have and everything that goes with it. But like literally within a year, I was like, this is not possible. You know, I was even
Yeah.
questioning myself. I'm like, oh my God, like why was I wasting all this time? You know, where was I
Yes.
all this time, right? But then again, things have to happen in a, you know, certain time and certain circumstances and everything, and then it's right in front of us, and it's like, hello, what are you going to do about it, right? So
Yes. I that's something else I really enjoyed too was how like you also like own your part of it. I feel like there's such like that perception where like, well, if they just figure themselves out, then things will be okay. Like, but there's also like a lot of time and energy and work to put into yourself, that two-way street. So it's a blessing, but it is a lot of work. It's not something that happens in just one day. It's like
no,
continuous.
constant work. Oh my gosh, it's constant work.
It is, yes. I always say, I'm like, well, if you were enlightened, you'd probably be dead. So no one here is
That's right.
enlightened.
That's
You
right.
just
No,
gotta keep
exactly.
going.
I'm not ready yet. Too much to
Yeah,
do.
there's so much work to do and so much more to learn. So
Yes, absolutely. In so little time.
yes. So where can people like find the book, your website to work with you? Feel free to share your website and your information here.
Sure. Yeah. My website is www. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
bentnotbroken.com. Sorry, bentnotbroken.ca. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
So yep. So www.bentnotbroken.ca. Or they can email me directly at Anna, ANNA, at Anna Dowe, ANNADOWE.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What are some exciting things you have coming up? I'm mainly just asking because I'm curious, but also like if other people can join, or if you have another book or events, things that you have on the go.
Yeah, so I am always on the go, right?
I love
I'm
that feeling.
yeah, it's like I always laugh that I have the gypsy soul, right? So the
Yes.
book takes me on the road, and I'm so blessed to work with my publisher. And I'm off to Washington tomorrow, actually. And then 2 weeks later, I'm in Berlin for a week, and then I'm in Singapore and Malaysia and Bali for 2 weeks at the
Wow,
end of
I
the
love
year.
it.
Yeah, so I have a really, really amazing life. Again, tiring at times, but I feel super fulfilled. And I wish that feeling to anybody and everybody out there. And again, if you knew me 3 or 4 years ago and where I'm right now, if I could do it, anybody can do it. It's just,
Mhm.
just just follow your heart, stick with your gut, really, really love yourself through whatever you're going through, and it's gonna be all right. You can manifest anything in the world.
I love that. I was going to say if you had any final words of wisdom, but I feel like that might have been it. So it's so great.
He
I'm like,
already said that mentally to me.
yeah. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you knew. Like, so in tune. I love it.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. And I follow you, and I see all the amazing work that you do, and so many people that you help. Like, I really appreciate that. Like I was saying to you earlier, there's strength in numbers, and there's still such a stigma around mental health. And there's people
There
who
is.
need to educate themselves. There's people who need to kind of break free and break through and stuff. And you are definitely helping them through it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I've read some of your posts, and I'm like, oh, this is really for me. Like, I needed to
Yeah.
read that today. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for
I
that.
really
Yeah,
appreciate your words. Yeah, someday we're gonna have to get together for like
absolutely.
we'll be like hosting a retreat, or we'll be doing
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Something's happening.
absolutely. Like I was gonna say, if you ever need any help, you know how to reach me.
For sure. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thank you.